Red Star Radio. Voice of the revolution.
The alternative right, if we just define it quickly, is
The far right.
yeah, it's a
Cool new
neo-far right.
label for them.
Yeah, it's a cool new label for the far right, mostly younger people. The alt-right is distinct from the normal right in that it's less religious, although you do have the hard right Catholic nationalists or some shit that want to actually go on a crusade or something, even though all they do is probably just burn down Constantinople again, or just some other part in Greece. The alternative right, according to Wikipedia, refers to a white identitarian website created by Richard Spencer and Colin Liddell. So the website Alternative Right, which pretty much is the precursor to the alt-right, started out as white identity politics. The alt-right has this massive delusion that identity politics is basically causing the white race to suffer because people are paying attention to the issues faced by racial minorities in their countries or sexual minorities in their countries, and yada, yada, yada. However, what the alt-right responds with is
their own identity politics.
Yeah, their own identity politics. Well, for starters, we have to look into how the alt-right forms, because a lot of the alt-right 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, they kind of surfaced after Barack Obama won his second election. They basically were ex-liberals and Democrats who thought that the only way to be leftist was basically to complain about religion 24/7.
Christopher Hitchens method.
Yeah, or the Richard Dawkins left. And you can see this pretty much in every neo-alt-righter. But the way these guys start out is that first they pretend to be left libertarians or classical liberal or some other ideology they're not a part of, don't understand for the love of their life. And generally just go on and saying, oh, these people complaining about racism, sexism, and whatnot are the real racists. They're the real sexists. They're the real bigots, because they can't deal with the fact that some people aren't going to be coddling them 24/7, and they're going to acknowledge that some part of their existence generally plays up into the system, for the lack of a better of the term. Now, a lot of these alt-righters, when they started out, the identity politics they cared for was atheism and the middle class and whatnot, but they didn't consider it identity politics because it wasn't their identity that was being under attack. But after 2012 and more economic issues, precursors to the alternative right suddenly found their middle class white boy lifestyle coming under not scrutiny, but just like there was a call for self-awareness within these groups. It's not a sin to be a white middle-class male, despite what the alt-right thinks we believe in, but like we were just simply asking for, hey, maybe you can acknowledge that you are privileged in this regard, even though you are an atheist and even though you are not technically upper class. And these middle-class white atheist guys just went straight up reactionary, because who would have guessed that someone who constantly claims to be apolitical or a moderate is really just a shell for the status quo that's not identifying with a political position because they don't want the status quo changed. So what these guys pretty much do is projecting onto us leftists, calling us the regressive left and all that bullshit, because we're daring to focus on identity politics and not solely just the plight of the middle class or being ultra atheist. So the alt-right, they just promote all these sorts of identity politics. And that's pretty much one of my counterclaims to the whole, the far right doesn't care about identity politics, because kiss my ass, one of the biggest genocides of human history was specifically motivated out of identity politics for the Germanic race. Right now, it's manifesting itself in the form of the anti-refugee crisis. Yeah. You guys know my position that, I acknowledge there can be terrorists among the refugees, and you should probably do a search, and that maybe not all of them are Syrian, because, to a Western white person, everyone who looks vaguely foreign might as well be an Arab or some shit, which gets really stupid, because like people from, let's say, Afghanistan or Pakistan don't even speak Arabic. But I digress. I generally do believe in helping refugees, because, hey, why would the Armenian, of all people, want to help refugees? I wonder why. And while I do acknowledge the security risks, I generally blame that on Europe's fault for being pretty shit when it comes to security and just letting all these terrorist attacks happen under their radar while simultaneously allying with nations that fund terrorism. Cough Saudi, cough Turkey, and cough Israel. And the alt-right, though, they don't see it as part of some sort of symptom of capitalism and imperialism and racism. They see it as an attack on their white identity. Even if you took everyone from the Muslim League and put them into Europe, not only would they still be a minority, but yeah, you're not going to breed out European people because there's still
You mean
a tribal
they don't just automatically rape every white woman that they see?
No, in fact, a lot of Muslims will probably beat the shit out of you if you dare suggest going on a raping spree.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed?
Even though supposedly the whole mob thing in Cologne, that was supposedly like some orchestrated terrorist attack. I met someone who actually thought that the Cologne New Year's Eve thing was like an actual ISIS planned attack to like
no, it was
make
just
a big
assholes.
crowd and then
Yeah. But it was just assholes being assholes. The thing is with rape is that the alt-right doesn't care about rape unless they can use it to make fun of minorities or some shit, because the rest of the time they think that women are just whores who always lie about rape or some bullshit. Because again, it's not their white identity that's being attacked. If they acknowledge that a white woman was raped by a white man, then suddenly they would have to start questioning masculinity and entitlement, and they don't want that.